Well, hey everybody! It's been a while since I did a podcast with another person. Primarily, I've been focusing on sermons, but I wanted to interview this guy because he's been a really good friend of mine, and I think a lot of us focus on being a good, businessman, or a teacher, or a preacher, or pastor. But I feel like it's really, really difficult to actually be all of those together. So I have with me Vlad. Say hi to everybody.
Hey everyone.
Yeah, so he is a pastor. He's a young father. He also has a full time job, and on top of that, he also is a godly husband. And I wanted to ask him some questions, and I don't know if you ever heard of this. Kind of like a lot of people talk about how there's at least four quadrants in life: faith, family, friends, and finances. Right. So my questions today will be focused on these four aspects. So Vlad, let's go ahead and start with faith. You're a pastor. And man, I know I've been a pastor for quite some time, and I know that a lot of times there's always a meeting to go to, there's always somewhere to preach, there's always a sermon to prep. And I heard recently you actually started to go to school. So, what in the world, like, how are you able to manage all of this? And why did you decide to actually like start an MDiv program?
Yeah, no, I'm asking myself the same thing.
Bro.
Yeah, it's been a journey, that's
Yeah.
for sure. I think even leading into life as a teen, growing, I've always seen myself in ministry. I knew that was part of the plan. It was just a matter of how that would develop.
Yeah.
And so going through the years, I studied electrical engineering.
Okay.
And so that was a focus of, hey, let's get the work thing figured out.
Yeah.
That was my priority.
The finances
Right.
part.
Get the finances figured out because everything else will flow from that.
Yeah.
That was always my mentality, at least.
Yeah.
Was that perfect? I don't know. I think that God led me through that. He gave
Mm-hmm.
me the grace for it. And so that gave a good stepping stone later to be able to do all the other things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I have a good job. I work for the local utility, and it's been a really big blessing. And so now I can focus on the other areas of actually ministering. And I know I have my 9 to 5. I go, and I have a good work-life balance, I'd say. So I have the opportunity to minister bivocationally,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the schooling. Seeing that, hey, ministry, it requires good training,
Yeah.
and there's the practical side, and I'm very thankful for that, for the church, and for all the opportunities that have come, the mentorship. But just see, even from just an academic side,
Yeah.
of seeing things, of learning, reading, and being tested on your knowledge, because I think that's something where now I'm recognizing I struggle with, right? Memorizing and retaining that knowledge. So that's been a big aspect for it. So how do I balance it out? It's a good question. I got to ask my wife because she definitely helps me with that.
Yeah.
If it were up to me, I would probably lock myself in a room and try to be in books all day and, reading and
Yeah.
listening to material. That would be an ideal world for me. But my wife, she really helps prioritize and set those things straight.
What about for ministry wise? Like, first of all, tell us a little bit about how did you become a Christian?
Yeah.
Why are you a minister to begin with? If there's one thing that people don't know about ministry, is it doesn't really pay that well,
Yeah.
or it's really tough to actually be able to make an income. So, what drives you to be in ministry? Like, maybe speak a little bit about to your relationship with the Lord, and why do you do ministry in general?
Yeah. A big aspect of it is just my upbringing. I grew up in a Christian family. I was born
Mm.
in a Christian family, God-fearing parents, mom, dad that loved the Lord, went through their own challenges, and then came to the U.S. in 1997. I was born in
Yeah.
98, and I grew up in the church. So
Mhm.
every aspect of prayer services, evening services, morning services, whatever that looked like, I
Yeah.
was in church. And there was actually a funny story. I think I was in middle school at some point, and I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, I was with my mom. My dad had the day shift, and so I'm like, Mom, I think I want to do a sport. And she's like, okay, so you have some free time. I will find another prayer service we need to attend. And I was like,
So you don't do sports?
so I was like, I don't know if that's what I was meaning with that
Yeah.
desire.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing just ingrained from childhood where it wasn't for the sake of, hey, church is going to save you, but it was gathering with the saints and spending time in the presence and just especially an emphasis in prayer. And that really stirred me. There was a process of um, just those encounters and being there and seeing miracles taking place that really began to resonate with me. I'd say it was already in my early teen years where I really took my faith seriously, where it wasn't just, hey, my mom wants me to go to church, or my dad's telling me I got to prepare a sermon, or something like that. But it was around 13 where I really saw that, hey, there's more to this, that Jesus desires something for me,
Yeah.
and to have a relationship with me. I still remember, I think it was maybe 14, I got my first English Bible, because up to that point I was reading everything in Russian. It was hard to understand everything, but I still remember I just go out in the backyard and I'm just reading and I can't get enough of this. I'm like, dude, I
Yeah.
understand this. I understand this.
Yeah.
And just seeing how the Lord was speaking to me. And through the process, I had a lot of doubts, but I just had this draw to ministry.
Yeah.
And God's people, loving God's people, serving God's people. And I think all of those things really formed that desire. Again, a big emphasis from my parents, just really solidifying, hey, being a part of the church, serving in the church.
Yeah.
But then getting to the point of, again, from free will, where I was 15 years old, I was in the youth ministry. I'm going to admit to something, but we had some practices that we had to go to.
Yeah.
No one could drive me, so I would just get in the car on my permit, and I would drive to church, because I'm like, the Lord's work must get done, So that's my repentance.
It's okay
there.
if you break the law.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not okay to break the law.
That is not what I'm pushing at any. But that was just the zeal that I had, where it was like, hey, I want to serve.
Did you ever attend the prayer on Mondays?
Yes, that was a huge aspect of it for those, especially in the Seattle area. But we had people even out there. It was Grandpa Radchuk, where he taught us to pray, and he had a whole system of his own. That's where I started preaching. I was 11 years old.
Do you know how I started preaching?
Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, so like I went to that prayer meeting on Monday nights, and I'm there with one of my friends, and the other chick looks at me and goes, "Hey, you're preaching next." my first time there. And like, so I'm like, I look at my friend, I'm like, "Hey, I think he said you're preaching next," because I know my friend was attending more, and he's like, "No, he said you're preaching next." So then I get up there, broken in English and all, opened the Bible, and I spoke for, I think, a total of 7 minutes, and that was my first
That's impressive.
sermon. Yeah.
Hey, that's impressive, because I think the first time I got up, I timed myself. I was at 7 or 8 minutes, and I got up. It was a solid minute and a half. My legs were shaking. I remember that vividly.
But if you think about it, how many people have been launched in ministry from that prayer? Like,
absolutely.
There's so many of our friends that are pastors now and leaders, and it's because of that Monday night prayer.
Yeah, and that just speaks to the testament of one man's faithfulness. It was essentially one man that really saw the vision of, hey, I want to have a prayer service, and put an emphasis on young people. Especially at that time, I'd say culturally that wasn't really the case.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are like, hey, kids, go figure your stuff out. This is real deal stuff here. Whereas he was really propelling everyone and saying, hey, no, you're going to preach. And I remember I had the exact same moment. I was terrified, and rightly so. I'm coming up there. What am I going to say at 11 years old?
Yeah.
But it really stirred something. Yeah, it was 11. The first time I got up,
Lord,
at 11. And so it was like step by step. But when it was about like the English Bible, that's when everything just started like clicking. I'm just like, man, again, maybe at that point I was reading my Bible for more sermons. Maybe I was at that point, but those thoughts were planted so deeply where even today they still resonate. Those points and those moments of just having those moments with the Lord and the revelation, like, it's a personal love. Like, God loves me. It was so special. And yes.
So did that launch you straight into ministry right after that? Like, did you start? Because I started to attend like a Friday night prayer, and we did that for about 7 years, and that's kind of what launched me into the actual ministry. But how did it go for you?
Yeah, for me, I was plugged in, Sunday school, plays. Actually, I watched videos of me being Joseph. Recently saw something when I was like 8. So had some involvement, but especially when it came to the aspect of preaching, that is what really launched it, because I got into youth at that time, went to a smaller church, and I think it was 13. Yeah. It was about that time as well. Or 14, where we officially became a part of the youth and graduated Sunday school. We didn't have a teens program, so we were all together, 13 till
Which
later.
Is kind
right?
of wild to think about. Right now, you'll ask somebody who is a young adult, like let's say somebody who's 24, 28, and they're like, I'm just not ready for it. And I'm like, bro, we started like for you, it was
Yeah.
like 13.
Yep.
I
Yep.
was 16. And to me it's just like the even the generation now, it's like, oh well, I'm just not ready. I need to go to seminary first, and.
Right. Yeah, no, there's definitely there has to be a sense of being willing to try.
Yeah.
And I think there's such a pressure when, at that time when I was starting, there wasn't a ton of things online, right? I mean, there were, but it was far and thin. Whereas now everyone is an eloquent speaker, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's just got it down and I'm going to come up. What are people going to think about what I say? And so there's such a pressure to be able to come up
Yeah.
and give something that compares to people that have been in ministry with 30 years. And I
Yeah.
think that's unfair, right? There
Yeah.
has to be a reality of just like growing, having the growing pains.
Well, because they were looking at the highlight reels, right? Like
yes,
you're looking
absolutely.
at, like with Instagram now, it's like you can see the best of the speakers,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then you're
Yeah,
like,
you don't see their challenged messages where they're like, oh, I'm not posting that one.
you don't know like the messages that they spoke. And you're like, well, I look at my own life, and it's like there's some messages that I'm like, I hope nobody ever hears them again.
We're going to have to dig those up.
And I think we don't have a lot of room for that, and I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And I can speak that even today for myself.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't think that's gone away and it's
Yeah.
in a distant place, but it's something that's definitely in my mind as I'm preparing for things where there is almost a pressure where you need to be good enough. And I think to an extent that's got to be there. But I think sometimes it can lay the pathway for something unrealistic.
Yeah.
Where I am who I am, right? And I can't be these amazing speakers that are just so eloquent, so great. I need to be true to who I am. And I know there's something that God has invested into me
Yeah.
that I can pour out and not be afraid of that.
Did you have any moment between, like when you started ministry and now, where you felt like ministry was really burning you out?
Burning out, yes. I could definitely attest to moments like that. I think my struggle was probably less on burning out throughout ministry. It was more with the sense of like self-confidence almost, where it's like, I don't know if I'm built for this.
Okay.
Where I would do a lot, and there would be times definitely of there's a lot going on. I got to pause on some things, but I don't think there's ever been this moment where I'm just like, hey, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I feel like up to this point in life, it's been a I don't know if it's a good balance, but there's been something that's been carrying us through.
Well, the reason I ask is because ministry should be life-giving. Right?
Yeah.
And we should minister out of the overflow that we have with our personal relationship with Jesus. But I think the other extreme is people feel like whenever it gets tough, then I'm burning out.
Yeah, right.
And it's
right.
like there's this one or the other extreme where it's like, well, I didn't sign up for this. It shouldn't be this hard. Well, ministry is hard.
Yeah.
And I think we call burnout things that are hard. And, if you're dealing with people, you'll deal with really hard situations.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a good point. And ministry is hard. Absolutely. I am not the one to say that it's like it's a breeze. It is challenging to go and to be there, be present, and to be able to give. But I think that's exactly it. It's knowing that, hey, it is challenging. It is hard. And Apostle Paul, he ministered and he paid quite the price for it. And so with his own life and all the other apostles, the things that they had to go through.
Yeah.
And so culturally, definitely there can be this aspect where if it's demanding too much, I'm not fit for it. And I think we do need to reshift again to a healthy extent where it's not like I'm burning out. This is it, but it doesn't matter. I got to keep going because the ministry needs to happen. But exactly that, life-giving. I find that in the ministry, so much of my growth did happen just because of the opportunities that were there, the people that I was surrounded by. Like I think even when it comes to pastors that I've met because I was in ministry and the words that they spoke into my life, it's been profound and it's been impactful. Just my character, that's how I operate, where like growing up, I didn't need a lot said to me, but I would be able to take a few words and it would carry me far. And so that's been big for me, where throughout the ministry where, of course there's moments where it's difficult, but I'd see just the people that have come around and have really spoken into me, into my life. And that's just created so much growth in my life.
Well, I think just to think about ministry in general, I think we again, we measure ourselves with other ministers,
Yeah.
right? And we see so many ministers that are so successful, and we think we have to produce at that same level, and we don't really give us much like of a learning curve. So like for example, we won't do anything until we kind of like perfect things, but we know perfection really never really just happens.
Yeah.
It's repetition, right? Like in habits. And to your point, I think for me, being in ministry has really shaped in who I am as a person, has shaped my gifting and my ability, and what I do in ministry,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is, the whole like illustration of like you can't really steer a parked car, right? Like where it's like if it's parked, it's really, but once you start moving, you can kind of like steer the car, right? And I feel like when I think of ministry, the old saying that like you just start doing something. I think it's important because once you start moving, once you start doing something, more and more you realize, okay, well, I definitely am not called this direction, and I'm called
Yeah.
more towards this direction, and then more and more you're going into that. And I feel like I've had quite a few turns in ministry, where I started as a youth pastor, and then I was at North Campus planting, and then there's a time where I left just the church I was attending, City Hill, and now I teach high school, and I've had a lot of turns, but they would not happen if I didn't actually like.
Yeah.
It didn't actually start a ministry,
Yeah, no, and I think that should be something even for those listening, where not being afraid to step out.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I need to make sure that I'm going into that perfect spot.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you're ever going to find that just from, maybe that'll happen. But generally, I mean, for my life, that was the same way. I love music. I love music.
But maybe you're not called to sing. I found that the hard way too.
Thank you. But that was it. I did a lot of singing before, but I saw how much it formed who I was. And there's just been moments, I'll tell you, like even talking and working with people.
Yeah.
So there was a time where we're young. I was probably 19 at the time. I think we were engaged.
Yeah.
And we're having a practice. There was something that happened. Someone said something, and I wasn't a fan of it. And so in front of everyone, I just went, boom. You know what? Well, guess what? And I had a whole not an altercation, but it was a little uncomfortable. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. And again, I'm already engaged at that point. And whatever, there was an apology and whatnot, and I felt totally justified in what I did.
Yeah.
And then after, my fiance, now my wife, pulls me aside. She's like, I don't think that was the right thing to do. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was getting uncomfortable. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that was wrong.
Defending yourself.
What they did. And, but then I stepped back and I was like, you know what? That was wrong. That was not the way to approach that. That conversation had to have taken totally different route with a different mindset from a different heart. It didn't even have to happen that night. I should have slept on it. There was these little things. And now I look back, I'm not in music anymore. I don't do anything with music. But I see how much that formed, even just working on a team and being with people where, although it may have felt justified there, I really see that, God, again, working with people helping and correcting, but seeing God work through that even. And again, not that I have it perfect now.
I feel like
but
everyone has a story like that, though. Because it's like, I did the exact same thing, right? Like where this was like City Hill Bellevue. And I wish to tell you this was early in the ministry. It wasn't. It was about a few years ago. And like somebody was playing some secular music inside of the sanctuary. So I walked in. I was like, hey guys, you need to turn that off, right? And the way I walked in, like very militant, like, you need to turn that off.
Who's playing it?
Right.
Show me your phone.
And one of the girls goes, what's wrong with this song, And I look at her in just anger. And I'm like, how about you start, and like I'm kind of like trying to figure out what I'm gonna say, right? I'm like, how about you start actually asking what's right with this song?
Oh.
And I just like walk, and everyone just like turns and they're looking at me, and I'm like walking away like all self-righteous with self-righteous indignation. And the moment I walk out of sanctuary, bro, I get so convicted by the Holy Spirit.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I need to go apologize. Because even though I was right, the way I addressed it, it was very un-Christ-like, right? So by this time, I walk back in the sanctuary, and they're sitting in the circle playing Uno, right? This was like after like service. I think we were serving or something. And I walk and I sit down in the same circle, and everyone just gets really awkward and quiet, right?
Put the cards away. They were ready.
They were ready, and I was like, "Hey guys, can I say something?" One of the guys looks at me, and like, I kid you not, he goes, "Please," and I'm like, "I just want to apologize," you know.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Hey, the way I handled that was not Christ-like, and I apologize to you." And it was just like the weirdest like apology, because I felt still really awkward. But I feel like every single one of us have had moments like that where you overstepped.
Yeah.
Because even though you were right, the way you handled it, like, you're not making decisions in a vacuum here. Like, like you're making decisions that's impacting people's lives.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so yeah, but bro, same thing with the singing. I got stories like, and then you find out, okay, there's certain things you're just really not called to, and maybe like the one with singing, bro. This is earlier on. Like I was in high school, I was still looking, okay, where am I gonna go into? Like, and I tried choir, right? And my teacher goes, somebody sounds really off in the last row, I think.
And
Can
you're
you guys?
looking around like,
And I
guys,
look
come on.
around, right?
Get
And
your
like-
act together.
And I look around, and she started to kind of like go from like a bigger group to a small group, and like, okay, you three sing, and one of the guys in there was me. And then she goes, "Yeah, it's definitely you, Slavic."
Wow. Oh.
So-
That's tough. I can't say I had a moment like that, but I can only imagine. That's brutal.
So then I go to the counselor's office. I'm like, I want to drop the class. I just want to drop the class. And she's like, why? And she kept on like asking. And then she figured out that something happened in class. And so she asked other students. And then the next day I showed up to class. I don't know exactly what happened, but the next day I showed up to class. I still ended up dropping the class, but I had one more class to go to. So I show up, and the teacher actually apologized to me.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, hey, the way I kind of called you out, that was not appropriate. So I feel like, but that is the beauty of the gospel, right? Where learning how to forgive one another,
Yeah.
learning how to ask for forgiveness is what God does best, right? Like, it's when
Absolutely.
he changes us and transforms us. But you can't just, separate yourself and try to practice forgiveness by yourself,
Well, and
So-
that's a good point. Just recently had a conversation with someone. They're like, you know what? I just need to work on my salvation, and I just need to get away from people because all these people make me sin. And I'm like,
No, it's like you sit on your own. You don't need help. You're doing a really good job on that.
Right. It's like, hey, no, I think these are good environments actually
Yeah.
for us. And so we can recognize areas like, God, do a work in me. Holy
Yeah.
Spirit, shift this in me. Like, these are areas that need to be
Yeah.
pruned in my life, and vice versa. Maybe there is something that may have even been done to us.
Yeah.
And like, are we able to forgive when
Forgive.
someone approached us where we thought he was inappropriate or something along those ways, and to learn to not go and do that ourselves?
Yeah.
Because there's definitely the aspect where hurt people.
Yeah.
People that have been hurt, now they're taking it out as a mission that let everybody else feel the pain that I've gone through.
Yeah.
I think the gospel shows us a different way where, hey, maybe you have been hurt and you have been wronged, but when you're going to serve, you do it differently. You show the heart of Christ.
Yeah. Has ministry helped? Again, you're the one with experience here. You're married. Has ministry helped your marriage, or has it actually created more tension in your marriage? I know this is probably not a binary choice, right? Like, it's not one or the other. I'm sure it overlaps, but what do you think about that? Like, do you feel like being in ministry has brought you closer to each other, or has it like created some tension that like it was really tough?
Yeah. And the way that I like to look at this is that, let's say Vlad, out of ministry, gone.
Yeah.
What does my life look like? I thought about that. I've tried to go through that
Yeah.
process. And I think naturally you're going to fill your schedule up with things that you're passionate about,
Right.
and things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
And maybe at times that's something you are doing with your spouse, but maybe there's times where that's going to be something you're doing independently and she's supporting you in that. Whether it's in hobbies, whether
Yeah.
it's in, a business adventure that you're going on, or whatever that looks like. So for me, I recognize that this is an area of my life that I am passionate about, that I believe I'm called towards, that does take time.
Yeah.
I have a limited amount of time, and that has to be obviously distributed through my life as a dad, as a husband. So if I said that, no, it's been the easiest thing, there's never any tension that arises because of ministry, it's not true. We can have Inessa on one of these times and she'll let you know about, these areas. But I will say that ministry definitely has strengthened us as a family, because I view my ministry and the things that I do not as something that I just do, right? But this is an approach we take as a family unit.
Yeah.
Where I may be physically somewhere by myself, but my wife is alongside me, ministering together with me and supporting me and being with our kids and praying for me and fasting for me, whatever that looks like, and encouraging me. I'll give you a little testimony.
Yeah.
Maybe a subcategory of ministry and being in seminary. I'm going through Greek right now, and if you've ever gone through Greek, it's tough.
It's all Greek to me.
Yeah, I don't want to think about Greek right now, but Koine Greek, I'm studying that in seminary right now. And I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I'm studying and I was away from the family, and I'm texting Inessa and I'm saying, hey, I don't want to be here right now. I want to be at home. I want to be with the boys. I want to hang out with you. I just want to spend time together. And I loved her response. She encouraged me. She said, hey, no, you've got to do this.
Yeah.
You've got to commit to this. We're going to spend time with each other. We'll make time for it. But right now, focus on this to be able to better you, that you would be able to grow in ministry. So for me, I view it as we've grown to that, because like from day one of marriage, I don't think it was like that.
Yeah.
But I see just how much we've grown together and closer in this call of which we believe that God has placed on our family. We want to be faithful in that and stewarding that. So it's just more on me now to ensure that ministry is not getting the best of me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that it's not just pulling me away and saying, hey, it's great. I'll see you at 10 o'clock when I'm done with my meeting. I'm out that door at 7 a.m. because I got work, and I'll be back at 10 p.m. Like, that's not fair to my wife and my kids, because if that's the case, don't get married. Go minister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you envision for your life and you want to have a family, but you don't want to be there for them, I don't think that's biblical. Yeah. Right? So,
but you as a couple, from what I understand, you guys had a really difficult season with your second child.
Yeah.
And, it's one thing to preach and to know things in kind of theory. It's a whole different thing to make it in practice, right? And I know this touches on a lot of different subjects, but tell us a little bit about the story, what happened with your second child and the difficulty that as a couple you guys walked through.
Yeah. I'll try to keep it brief, because there are quite a few details that go with it, but this would have been 4 years now, or 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It was January time. Typical life. We're going through it. We're expecting our second boy. I'm working, and I was in a role there at the utility where there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails that I was going through, especially at that time. It was a busy season. And so we're going to an ultrasound. And so I'm like, hey, I've got, like, this is great, but I've really got to figure this out. So I'm there. I was, like, really absorbed in the work. We were there. We're watching. I didn't notice anything abnormal. But then we came home. I went back to work. We were working from home at the time. And so I was just behind the computer, and I see my wife come up with her phone, and she's in tears. That's, like, bad sign. She's like, read this. So I read it, and there's a diagnosis. Or the potential of a diagnosis. And they're saying, hey, it's inconclusive, but we're noticing some issues. So you're going to have to come back for a scan. And they were telling us, like, come in a few weeks. And if you can ever picture that, where, hey, your kid might have something wrong with him, come back in a few weeks to confirm.
How do I spend the next 2 weeks?
What am I going to do in those few weeks?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was tough. But I'm thankful for my wife. She's someone that is going to go. She's going to do the research. So she was already familiar with some of the terms, did research. And from the beginning, we knew we needed to do something. We couldn't wait a few weeks, because if something was wrong, We've got to figure it out. And so at the time, the diagnosis was, it was alluding to spina bifida. It's a neurological condition. It's very common, but unfortunately, a lot of the babies are aborted just because they may have a difficult life. And so my wife did a lot of research. She called the clinic and said, hey, we need this scan because there's a certain time window if you want to do surgery. And so we had to move fast, and thankfully, praise God. And we, again, just from step one, we already saw God's grace and God's favor over the situation where we got a slot in a clinic. I think it was that we found out on a Wednesday, we got in on a Friday. And that we later found out the whole staff skipped their lunch to take us in.
Wow.
And so when I found that out, I'm like, if you know a doctor, providers, I love providers, don't get me wrong. But they have a tight window, tight schedule. And for them, they're like, hey, it's not working out. Whereas them, they're like, hey, this is a very, it's a difficult situation. Let's be there for this family. And so when we learned about that later, we're like, this is just God, leading us in this journey. So we got the diagnosis officially there. We saw options. We had to do surgery in the womb, or we could wait till post-birth, but that would be, it would be a worst case scenario for the baby. So, excuse me. At that time, we had to fly out to Texas for fetal surgery. And so in the womb, they essentially have ports. There's a bunch of medical stuff that goes into it, but they do some repairs on the baby, and then time goes on, baby's delivered, and then you're already working through with the specialists and spina bifida clinic and whatnot. So we went through that. We went down to Texas, and that was a journey. It was like, what are we going to do? But what I'm so thankful for is because we were in the ministry, because we were close with our church family through the entirety of all of this, from the day when I came out up front with tears in my eyes, and I said, hey, church, can you pray for us? Because this is what we're going through. Everyone surrounded us. It was just, supernatural. I don't know what to say about it, but my heart was heavy. When I left that place, I had peace. I was crying walking into that service. And when I was leaving, seeing how the church surrounded us, and through that process, as we were going through surgery, people were just blessing us financially. Like, we didn't ask for it, but they knew there would be a gap there. My wife wasn't going to be working anymore, so she works here and there part-time. I was going to be, having to take some time off, and we're still paying for things here, but we have to pay for some expenses there in Texas. And just by the grace of God, man, we went through surgery 3 weeks, and then we flew back home. And then we were at home. Inessa, my wife, she was essentially supposed to be bedridden during that period as she was healing. And we already had Zion at this point. Zion, he was a toddler. He was just a little over 1 year old, very active, and she wasn't able to pick him up. And so for me, ministry was essentially non-existent already at that point. I didn't really go to anything because I had to be at home with the baby, or with Zion, with the toddler, and a lot of time there. And then we had to go back to Texas. They called us back and said, hey, we want you to deliver the baby here because we know how to care for the baby once he's already born. And so that was just, it was challenging, but we just saw God's favor through it all. And for me, God was doing a work in me, multiple fronts. On a theological side, right? Because people are saying, hey, healing, no more. And then some people saying, like, healing, you just got to ask for it. And if you're not getting it, you just don't have enough faith. And so now I'm in the middle of this.
It's very personal for
if
you.
there are any faith healers, I want you in my room now. And I want you to, like, that was at the phase, right? Where we want to see a miracle. But I just saw God working through me and giving the grace to go through that and to our, to our family. And so as we were there, we're finishing up this whole process of waiting for the baby to come. The baby came, and for a few more weeks we were there in Texas, and then we flew back home. But one of the big aspects that I was challenged with in this period was the abortion question, right? Because that was the very first thing that we're proposed with. Hey, this fetus, there was no baby. It's just a fetus, okay? This fetus, we can terminate this fetus. That's your first option. And my wife, oh, praise God for her. She was in tears, and she said, I don't ever want to hear that again.
Wow.
And they were like, okay, nope, fair enough. Hey, totally understandable. Like, they totally shocked. I don't think they hear that often. And from that point on, Azariah was no longer a fetus, but he was a baby. Just supernaturally in an instant became a baby.
Yeah.
So, even from that side,
Yeah.
I see now the testimony
Yeah.
of people don't want to talk about abortion with a man, especially in our
Yeah,
culture, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, what opinion can you have? I will tell you, it's giving me such boldness to talk about abortion,
Yeah.
where if anyone dares bring anything up, especially in our cultural sensitivity and all of that,
Yeah.
I say, how dare you speak like that to me? You've never even gone through that. I've
Yeah.
gone through that.
Yeah.
And then people are like, whoa, they're captured. They don't know what to say. What am
Yeah.
I going to do? Because then I'm kind of going against my own narrative, because he wouldn't understand, but he does, because he has a kid going through that. So we see even what the enemy has meant for evil. Even in this moment, we see God is able to turn around for good. And so I'm bold behind the pulpit. I speak about this at least once a month. I bring up abortion. Well, once every couple months when I'm speaking, I'll bring up abortion, and just very clearly of saying, hey, this is, we believe in the sanctity of life, and the fact that every child is valuable. And even a child that has some sort of deformity or some sort of issue, some sort of condition, there is the image of God upon that child.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this question, at least for me, in teaching, comes up a lot in class. I wouldn't say too much at the high school level, but a lot at when I teach at colleges or churches. And one thing that I think people kind of have a misunderstanding about this is they think of a baby like a house, right? When is a house a house? Is it when you have the bricks, or when you have like the bricks and the foundation? But the baby's not like a house. And the example that I've heard that I thought was very helpful is this idea of a Polaroid, right? Once you snap the Polaroid, all the parts for the Polaroid to actually like develop, they're there. As long as you don't destroy the picture, right? You will develop into a full,
that's good.
Picture. And when I think of the baby, calling it anything other than a baby when it's like very, very young, or if it's, I'm talking about like in the womb, if it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever that is, right? Like all the parts for that baby to actually be a human being, the potential of a human being, they're there. As long as you don't cut that process off, so that's why for Christians, for anybody to argue, like theologically, I mean, you have no standing, because how many places in the scripture do we see that God knows us in the womb, right? And so it's like there's no theological standing, but like even if you look logically, that's a baby.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, even Christians, people will say they're pro-life, but I love your example, because I think this is something that is actually real. You had to make that decision. Now, how's the boy doing now? How's Azariah doing now?
Well, and that's what I'd love to follow up with, where we talk about this with my wife at least every couple of days. Like we look at him and we're just like, what would life be without him?
Yeah.
He is such an element of our family, where we have 3 boys, so 4. Azariah is going to be 3 here shortly, and then we have a baby. He's 4 months now, and we see they're all obviously baby, but like just from Zion and Azariah, they're growing. Their characters are so different. Yeah, they're so unique. And Azariah, he just has a way to bring such like humor. He has like a dry humor, like the things he'll say, you're like, what are you talking about, dude? How'd you get that? Where'd you come up with that? Yeah. But just his heart, where he'll come up to me and he's just like, Papa, I love you. And he just comes and gives me kisses. That is probably some of the most heart-melting experiences where someone thought that he did not deserve to live. Someone thought that, hey, I think it's better for you to have an easier life. And don't get me wrong, it's been challenging. Yeah. Even after his birth, we have physical therapy once a week. Praise God, he's walking with a walker now, and he's getting close to walking independently. Yeah. And so we're seeing just the hand of God through his life. Yeah. And we're believing for more. And we know that there is a testimony in his life. But of course, there are challenges. Going to the appointments, going to the clinics, going to checkups, going for surgery. He had multiple surgery even post birth. And so these are all moments where people don't see, right? Yeah. There's, like you said, the highlight reels. If I post something of him on Instagram, it's just a good thing that's going on. I'm not posting all of the appointments we're going to. And, every week we have something going on. But again, we see what's happened even in our formation and what God's been doing in us. And I love how one pastor put this, where, Vlad, God has entrusted you with this vessel.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't entrusted everyone with someone like this, but he entrusted you. Do
Yeah.
it well. Do it well, Vlad.
Yeah.
And that spoke to me. And this was earlier on, and it's something that was just, Lord, give me the grace to be able to raise this boy in such a way where he's going to go and he's going to change this world.
Yeah.
With his testimony, he's going to go and he's going to do something where they will see the love of Christ in him. And just seeing already from the very point of birth, someone said, hey, you don't deserve to live, to saying, look, God loves you. If he's loved me so much, and his name is Azariah, which means the Lord has helped. And so from the very beginning of his life, we're saying, Azariah, God's helped you. Azariah, don't forget, God's helped you. Azariah, every time we say his name, we say that over his life, that God has helped him. So we're so thankful. We're so thankful for him, for God's grace, for the church, for all the support from friends, from family. We couldn't have done it without everyone. But we believe that God is working. Even now, he's continuing to work, and that he will be ultimately glorified through all of it.
Bro, that is beautiful. And I don't know, I think of your story a lot, primarily because that's what it looks like to have faith in action, right? It's not just faith. Faith is not something you just believe. Yeah, you believe it in the mind, but once once the faith makes its way to the heart, it comes out in your actions, right?
Yeah.
Our behavior is downstream from what we think about, what we believe, right? Where our affections are, right? And that's such a beautiful story of faith in action, you know. But a few things I wanted also to mention. Man, we've been speaking for like 40 minutes already, which is awesome. But a few things I wanted to mention also is, how has this whole experience like changed, if it's changed you or shaped the view that you have of who God is as a father, right? I don't have the privilege of being a father yet. I'm so looking forward to one day being a father. I think this is one of the biggest goals of my life, is to experience fatherhood.
Yeah, may God bless you with that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I receive. But for you, how has this changed your view of the father?
You know, I think especially through that circumstance, I think kids in general brought and they're still bringing a deeper glimpse. Again, I think it's just an aspect of it, just a little bit. But especially with that scenario, with the circumstance, as maybe it almost seems counterintuitive for me, it was just seeing that God truly, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know, because I'm sure you've heard stories where people are like, oh, you got to be careful how you pray, because if you're going to say it this way, God's going to give you exactly like that. And like they put God in this perspective, like he doesn't care for you. He's sitting there and he's just looking like,
you better say the right prayer.
That's unbelievable. You said that, like, that's it. That's what's going to happen. And I mean, there's stories. I don't know. Maybe it's just me who's heard these wild, wacky stories. Mm-hmm. But I remember as we were going, I would spend a lot of time with my dad, because there was a portion of the time when we were away in Texas, my dad was there, and I was telling him these moments, and I'm like, man, God to me is not someone who is looking to catch me somewhere. Mm-hmm. But he truly loves me in such a way, and he's good to me, where his grace covers even the areas of my mistakes and the places where I mess up and I have failures. Mm-hmm. He's not like done with me. And he's like, that's it. What are we going to do with this guy? All right, we got to move on. And of course, there's the aspect of, we don't believe in cheap grace, but that he as a father loves me so much, and he wants the best for me, and he wants to see me grow. And that comes in times of discipline, that comes of time in times of difficulties. And I see this even today. If there's ever times of disciplining the boys, I tell, especially Zion and Azariah, well, them two, it's like they do something, and I'm like, look, you can't do that, because you're going to be a pastor. You're going to be an evangelist. Evangelists can't lie, so you can't lie. And, you know, whatever these moments are, but it's in raising them in a way and showing them that God's got a purpose for you. He's raising you, and maybe this is uncomfortable. Maybe you don't like this experience, but this is ultimately for your good, so that you would be a better vessel, that you would be closer into the image of Christ and be able to fulfill what he's calling you to do, to be a man of character. And I see that in my own life where, hey, if I have those intentions and those desires for my kids, and I want the ultimate best for them. Yeah. I want them to grow, and I'm not looking to catch them like, aha, I see it. Yeah. But like, hey, how about let's do it like this? Like, this is a better way to do it. Yeah. Like, what about God? How he's approaching me as a son, where he wants me to grow and to develop and to be closer into the image of Christ, so that I would be more fruitful, so that I would be able to bear more fruit to bring him glory.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge
So the reason I ask is I think there's so much truth in that. As you were talking, you said, where are the healers? And I was thinking, well, maybe if you had a stage and a whole bunch of cameras, healers would show up, right? They don't show up in hospitals. They show up on big events, you know?
True.
But again, I'm not trying to diss on that. What I'm trying to say is I think a lot of our belief sometimes has to do with what I would call that word of faith, right? It's like if I say the right formula,
Yes.
if I say in the right context, then God's going to hear me.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's not faith in God, it's faith in faith, or faith in a formula,
Yeah.
faith in a system, or faith in a way, right? And I struggle with that, to believe that somehow if you just say the right way, if you just pray the right amount, right? When we think of our relationship with our Father, it's like, no, I need to talk to my dad. Like, I just need to go to him, right? And I think just hearing your story, it's like what you need to do is go talk to the Father. Don't think about, oh, if I pray enough, if I have a right formula. It's this whole like elaborate way of approaching God, which makes me think, are we in the Old Testament here? Like, no, Jesus died on the cross. He broke the veil, right? Now, through his blood, we can walk into the Holy of Holies and petition God. We can go and ask the Lord, right? And I think that's something I'm getting from your story, is that go up to God and talk to God. Don't think of a specific way or a specific time or how you're going to do it. I feel like we are so focused on that.
Yeah, and I think to me that brings up what's the end goal?
Yeah.
You know, because if the end goal of my relationship, if the end goal of my prayer, of my desire is just to receive something and so that I could be more content and continue living my life away from the Father, away from God, I think it can lead to these moments. It's like, look, I just need this prayer because I'm going to get what I need from him, and I'm going to move on. And I'm going to keep going. God, you're going to do your thing. You'll keep working with all the pastors. You'll keep Pastor Slavic. He's amazing. You got to keep speaking to him because he's got good messages. He needs to keep speaking, right? And then the others. Yeah. But for the rest of us, we're just going to keep living our lives. And the next time there's a challenge, the next time there's a tragedy, or the next time I have a job concern, I'll come back. When my pay is dipping, when I'm not getting as many offers, whatever that is, I'm not landing as many contracts, I'll come back. And I think that's personally where I believe we miss it at times as believers, where we think the end goal is just the answered prayer. I think those answered prayers are important. That's why we pray. Yeah. But if we're not seeing that at the end of the day, the destination is not just an answered prayer, but hey, I want to be more like him and I want to know more of who he is. Yeah. And I love your perspective, living in light of eternity. Yeah. Yeah. I've got an eternity to live with this God. And I love, I was listening to a clip from Billy Graham about a month or so ago. And it was a question of saying, he was already old. It's like, hey, if there's like one thing you could change, one thing you could still do. And I don't remember exactly how the question was posed, but what would you do differently? Billy Graham. So this is mighty evangelist, amazing man of God.
Well respected.
Very well respected. Yeah. He died and nothing came out about him. I mean, lived a godly life. Yeah. Right? No scandals that are coming to haunt him after he's gone. He said, you know what I would do differently? I would go to less events, less speaking engagements, and I would spend more time with God. With God, yeah. That broke me when I was listening to that because I was going somewhere to go speak, you know, and I was like, oh, Lord, I got to finish this one. But you know, that it really spoke to me because sometimes we can get so caught up with like, hey, even if I pray, it's for the reason of I need this, this, and this, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But how much of my relationship needs to shift with the Lord to where, again, I'm praying, I am asking, but it's just being with him. Like, and this is another part of my kids where, again, with ministry, with work, when I come home right now, Zion, he's really into like board games. Uno, Trouble is, I think Double Trouble or just Trouble, I don't know, something like that. And he said, Papa, how are you? How is your day? He'll tell me about what he did, where he went. He's like, Papa, can we play a game with you? Come on, I want to show you what I learned. And he gets so into it, so animated.
Yeah.
He's excited about life.
Yeah.
We do this. He tells me then we finish our game. He goes on later into everything where he did, how he was at grandma's house. And it makes me think, like, when I talk with God, how do I talk with him? Is it just to spend time with him and just be in his presence? Or it's like action item, go, accomplished, leave. Like, is that the approach?
It's very transactional.
Yes, absolutely.
If we think of, I just need something from God. I just need him to do this thing for me. It's very transactional. And every relationship that's very transactional, it's not very much of a relationship, right? Vlad, who are some people, and do you have friends in your life that really challenge you? Like, think of, who are some people in your life right now? I mean, sure, I'm sure your wife holds you accountable. I heard this joke, a friend of mine who's a pastor. It's not a joke. It's actually a story. He is a pastor. He's like, bro, my wife is very supportive, but she's not impressed.
I like that. That's good.
And I was like, that's such a good. I mean, like, I want to have people in my life that are supportive, but they're not impressed with me.
That's good.
People that will hold you accountable. So besides your wife, like, are there people that speak into your life that are the father figures, obviously besides God, in your life?
Yeah, I'd say, especially when it comes to like mentorship from that perspective, we're friends, right? But really big is just the leaders at our church. Our senior pastor, Pastor Vasily. He's been someone in my life since I was a teen. I came to the church. I knew about him, but I came and he just, hey, Vlad, let's meet up for coffee. And I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, for what? Like, did I do something wrong? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then just having him, hear like what's life going, how life's going, what life's consisting of and whatnot. Again, I think I was 17 at the time, maybe 18. And that was really impressive. I was like, that's never happened before, in that capacity. But it was something that really formed into something where we would meet regularly every couple months or so. And it was just to talk about life. But that was the moments where he was vulnerable with me and real with me and saying like, hey, how is this? And why is it like that?
Yeah.
And where are we going? And I remember vividly, there was one time he meets with me and he's like, Vlad, I had a dream about you. And I was like,
okay, this is weird.
Whoa. And it was a dream. And he's like, this is what you're going through right now. This is what you're struggling with. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you got to stop. This got to change.
Wow.
And so for me, that was so profound because I know, like, I just put myself in a position. If I had a dream about someone and I felt like I needed to talk with them, would I do it? Where there was that relationship. Again, that was something where Pastor Vasily really invested into me. So that was a huge one. The one that's been there all my life is my brother, Slav.
Good.
He's also our campus pastor. So there's the elements of him as my pastor and being there for me and talking about things, but then also just being my brother through life. He was the one that challenged me the most, where I would say, especially when I was about 15, 16, he was the one that was asking me, like, who are you spending time with and why? Why are you spending so much time with these people? And especially as a teen, you're like justified. I was spending a lot of time hanging out, just whatever. And if you remember, there were statewide services that happened, right? Yeah. And they were still happening then. I was, I think, 15 at the time. I sat up on the balcony, like last row, and he was up front. And so he could see. And he's like, why are you sitting up top? There's space down here. That should be the last time you ever sit on a balcony. Again, if you sit on the balcony, there's nothing wrong with sitting on the balcony.
We just question your faith.
Do you truly love the Lord? But that was a challenge for me. Again, it's such a small thing. But he was willing to have uncomfortable conversations with me. But it was for my growth and my development. And that continues to this day where, I'm always vulnerable with him and, things that I'm going through. Maybe insecurities that I have, I talk through those things with him. And I'm thankful to God for him, again, as my pastor and as my brother, that he's been there through those moments of thick and thin, again, through all the challenges, he's really been the one that's been able to speak life and also bring correction from a very honest point of view,
Yeah.
and not beating around the bush and just hoping I get it. Like he'll tell me very straight up, and that's something I'm thankful for at Seattle Bethany Church in general, where there's correction needed, it will be brought. It's not just you hope to hear from someone; it will come from someone to ensure there's growth. But then when it comes to, maybe outside of that, just internal, I think the friendships that I've really developed over the years have been youth pastors that I was serving alongside with.
Yeah.
And although those friendships may have formed because of ministry, they are not sustained because of ministry, if that makes sense. I was introduced to those people, but these are people that I regularly will talk with and hit them up if I have a question, and I think, there's the best place for correction is at the sauna. We're having a banya session, and then that's where you can, really talk things out. And so, those people are there, and I would encourage everyone to seek those relationships that are not just people that are affirming you and saying like, hey, everything you do is excellent, and that's all, but people that truly are godly, and that have that interest in mind of seeing you grow as a man, as a woman of God, and that would challenge you. Yeah, it's necessary, and I'm thankful to God for you, because there's been times in my life where I had a question, and there's something about there's certain people you're like, hey, I know who I got to ask. Yeah. And recently I had a question for you, maybe like 2 months ago. Yeah. And you spoke so directly and so concretely to me, like I was convicted. Yeah. It was just I don't even remember the details of it. Yeah. But I'm thankful for that, for people like you that are willing to speak life, and out of love, right? Yeah. Not out of a place of like, finally my opportunity to grill you.
Thing is, man, so many people. It's a big thing now where they want to go to a therapist and a counselor,
solves
a
everything,
psychiatrist,
right?
and all of these things. And they, and I think they have their place. Like, if you have a good Christian counselor or you have a good Christian therapist, that could be a great thing in your life, And the thing is, the problem though is they're very expensive. You have to have insurance, and you have to spend $200 to $300 an hour, for these services. And I'm like, if you just joined a local church, and if you just went to a small group, I have a small group right now with about 12 guys, and it's like, I think most of the guys are married. I'm not married, and the things that I learned from them, and so like even including our friendship, right? Like from you and. Like I bring you up in class all the time. Like when I talk about this specific case that you mentioned about with your son, and I'm like, that's inspiring to me. And not only that, but like if I'm going through something, right? I have pastors I can talk to, friends in my life, right? And I feel like one of the reasons that people are dealing with so much loneliness is because, we chronically are online, but we don't have those like in-person small groups, churches, and then they wonder why they're lonely or why things don't work, and why they need to have a therapist. And I'm like, you can get one for free. Now, of course, you might not get the service. Like, I'm not trying to minimize the services of a therapist or a counselor. I'm just saying that a lot of your needs could be met in the local church, in godly friendships. A lot of your needs can be met in that.
That's not talked about enough, honestly. Where that's I've come across where it's like any discomfort you're having, it's like you need to talk with the therapist. Like
at $300 an hour.
Right. It's like maybe, but also that person, that's their job, right? Mm-hmm. And so you coming in more often is probably not the worst thing for their paycheck. Yeah. And so, I again, like you're saying, not to minimize, and that's definitely necessary, especially in, difficult situations. But I think we just need to get back to the place of community. We have to get back to the place of, again, godly relationships, because there's community. I was talking with someone who just recently moved from Texas, and they had like community at church or whatnot. And then he realized that there's a lot of people that go to church just for the sake of having friends. They are ungodly people. He was like, okay,
There's the other extreme.
this is unbelievable. He was
Yeah.
like, well, I just want to have like,
Mm-hmm.
godly people that are trying to grow in Christ, not just people that are
Mm-hmm.
going to church just because they need some friends. They got no one else. But what I would recommend is, find a group,
Yeah.
find a church, find people that will speak life into you. And I've come across a lot of people that are, I don't know if socially awkward is the right way to put it, but just shy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how to, make people feel welcome. And so like, I just come and I'm just standing around, and that can be a challenge at times.
Yeah.
And I think practical ways of, hey, just getting plugged into a ministry.
Yeah.
That helps you where you're now on a team where, hey, maybe you naturally don't just talk with people, but now you're talking
Yeah.
about ministry.
Now you
and
have a
whatnot.
reason.
Yeah, now you have a reason to
Talk to people.
and now
Yeah.
challenge yourself and step out of your comfort
That's
zone.
the thing. Like when you were in high school or college, right? You are around people who mostly, well, all of them are single, right? So, and then you're in classes together. You're maybe on athletic teams, right? So you're around people, and you naturally start making friends. But I think the older you get, the harder it is to make friends,
Yeah.
because most of the time it's really tough to make friends at work because there's a whole bunch of other structures and incentives that maybe you don't want to be very like candid with your coworker,
Yeah.
right? So the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. But if you place yourself in a church, serving on the team, right, or just going to the events, eventually you will bump into enough people that some of them will become some of your closest friends.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
You know?
testimony for me. Some of the closest people are just like that, how I met.
So we talk about faith and family and friends. What about finances? How is God challenging you there, and what are some things you're learning? Because man, being in ministry, unless you're a prosperity gospel preacher,
We're getting there.
which if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of prosperity gospel. That's an understatement.
Did not know.
But what are some challenges that I feel like in ministry, like you have to trust God on? Like both of us were in school right now. I'm in grad school. You're at what's the school?
I'm at Assemblies of God.
Assemblies of God, Mabayola, and I'm like, man, you're paying to get like ministry education, but ministry doesn't really pay well. So you're taking a huge risk, right? Like you're spending all this money to be trained, but then it's like you're going into a job that doesn't really pay very well. So what are your thoughts? I know you have a full-time job.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, I will give a broader, if I could take a chunk
Yeah.
and go through some stories.
Yeah.
That how God's been leading me
Mhm.
and what's been, I guess, the outcome of
Yeah.
what I've learned through it. I grew up teen. I wasn't driven when it came to like, I'm going to go start a business and wash cars, or I'm going to go, whatever. Detailing's the new thing. I'm going to have a detailing business.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm like, hey, I'm going to school so I can have a job.
Mhm.
That was it. I had a couple side things I would do, construction here and there. It'd help,
Yeah.
whatever, take out garbage, very minimal. And so I was focusing on the whole, hey, I got to get through school. I got to get through school. And then along the way, I fell in love. I was
Which is very expensive.
very expensive, right? And I look at this and I talk about this also like cautiously, because
Yeah.
I think for me, I did my best to position myself well to where I have enough finances till I graduate school, and then I'd be able to already get a job.
Mhm.
That was my goal, and that's, again, it's not we're gonna date for 10 years until I can get that goal, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, if we're going on this road, I'm gonna make it work, but we're not dating for 5 years. That was a big thing. So I figured out we've got to figure all this out. But I'm in ministry. I'm serving at the church, and it was tough. It was a tension that I had. Right? It's like, okay, well, go work. You want to get married? Forget this ministry thing and go work. And there is an aspect to that. But I was trusting God. Like, God, you see my desires. Like, this kind of came about. I hope I don't inspire a bunch of 16-year-olds to be like, that's it, at 18, I'm
getting married.
Yeah. And again, I think for every person it's different. I would actually encourage, like, really be financially stable.
Yeah.
Know who you are in the Lord. Get plugged in the church. Get involved in ministry. Be mature. Have a good mindset, and then go. But that separate conversation. But just my experience. we're going through this, and I was at the time going through some health issues. I had like really bad acne. I didn't have medical insurance. And so I'm going through school. We're engaged at this point, or we were going to get engaged. Oh, that's what it was. We were going to get engaged and kind of going through all these challenges. And I know, like, I've got to pay for the wedding. I've got school, all of that. And at the time, I was getting a little bit of financial aid, but I still had to pay out of pocket a decent amount. And I'm like, God, I don't know. Like, we're going to just trust you. Again, not blind faith. I have a plan, but we got to get through that plan. And I want to say truly where I saw like God's hand, where I saw God as a provider, it began when I was engaged, or maybe a little before that. My schooling, I got an email that it was fully covered and they were giving me grants. And so I was going to have additional money on top. Wow. So I'm like, whoa, that's it. That's out of my court. I don't have to think about student loans. That's huge.
Yeah.
Then I'm going through the process of like getting checked out with my health stuff. And there was a doctor friend that my parents knew. So I went, visited her. And so she gave some recommendations, what she thought it might have been. Nothing official. She didn't prescribe anything, but just to see if I should go to a doctor because it was going to be expensive. And she's like, yeah, your parents are saying you're trying to get married. Are you crazy? You know, yada, yada, that whole thing. I'm like, yeah, it's expensive. Got to buy a ring. And my budget at the time, I think it was $3,000. And so I was showing her pictures because the day before I was going ring shopping. So I'm like showing her. She's not a believer, not a believer. And so whatever, she gave me some recommendations. She went and bought me some things that she thought might be helpful. Just really nice, very pleasant experience. And the next day she texts me. She's like, so I have these diamond earrings and I lost one. I want to give you the other one because I know you're going to be buying a ring and maybe that'll help alleviate some things. And I was like,
wow,
that's kind of weird, you know? It's like, I'm not going to do that. I don't know if, you know, that was my thought process. I told my siblings, told my parents, like, dude, like,
they're giving you a free gift. They're giving
you a free gift. Yeah, it was literally that. And so I responded, I'm like, hey, like, if that's what you want to do, like, I'd be thankful. I'd be grateful for that.
Yeah.
And later to come to find that she didn't lose the diamond. She just didn't want me to feel bad. And so she made that whole story up. So she had both of them and she gave the other one. I don't know what she did with the other one, but she gave me, you know, that diamond. And so I remember sitting back and I was like, man, that's kind of wild, you know?
Yeah.
And through this, all the health issues, I ended up going to the ER because it was just so bad. And I got racked up like $6,000 in medical bills. And usually I know, like, hey, there's programs and whatnot. And when I was there, they're like, dude, there's nothing we can do. And somehow all of this got transferred to my parents, which I was over 18. I was 19 at the time. So I was super confused. I was like, what's going on? And it was December time. Or a couple months passed by after getting engaged. And I gave another call, just trying to figure out, like, hey, here's the situation. She's like, whoa, none of this makes sense. Nothing makes sense here. She's like, give me a week. So I called her back in a week, and she's like, I figured it out. And I think I had to pay like $200 for doctor fees or something.
Wow.
And so within the course of 4 months, the amount of money that you could say came my way in like forgiveness, debt forgiveness, or school being covered, that's when I realized, I'm like, look,
this is not
possible.
This is not a coincidence.
Okay, this is not just something. I'm trying to be genuine before the Lord. I'm walking before the Lord. He sees my desires. I want to serve. He sees the desires also in getting married. And again, for me, a big thing was receiving my parents' blessing. I said, like, hey, here's my period of dating. Here's my engagement period. I want to receive your blessing. And even that, I was young. And they're like, dude, I look back at pictures of me at 18 when I first pitched this to them. I have no idea how they agreed. But they went through that. And till this day, I will say there has been more. Again, I don't want to go through a bunch of stories, but that's been what God has taught me when it comes to finances, of trust. And so now that I have a job and more things, now it's trusting also in giving. You know, we just went through a campaign for our building. We just purchased a facility in the South Campus. It's a lot of money. And for someone, it's like, well, how are we going to do this? That's a lot of money. But I've been taught from a very, you know, early phase where give God what's God's and he will bless you. Again, I'm not a prosperity gospel in that. I'm not saying you're going to be, you will have what you need to live, to continue serving. And so, just an encouragement maybe for people that are worried about that. Do what you can do. You know, be proactive. Go study. Go start a business, whatever that looks like. And being wise about that. Surround yourself around people that can, you know, speak life into you in those areas. but also trusting God in those things
Yeah.
and saying, God, this for me, a job was always so that I could minister. That was always my
Absolutely.
perspective. And so I believe that now the fruit of that, of what I see, and God, again, a blessing financially is not because I deserve it or I've earned it or anything, but that's just his favor. And hey, seek first the kingdom and all of its righteousness, and everything else will be added. That's what I try to use as my motto.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to do what I can from my side and allow God to operate as he pleases. And so far, I just see God's faithfulness.
Yeah, same. I'd say for me, the same thing. Like, I worked different kind of jobs. I was at Boeing for a long time as a real estate. I teach now. And the thing is that, like, I don't think I've ever had, like, a ton of money. I've never really been, like, I wouldn't consider myself rich. But, I mean, relatively speaking, right?
Yeah, right. Relatively
But
speaking, yes.
I think for the last, I would say, 25 years of my life, I don't think I've ever worried about money. Right? So it's not like I have this extreme excess or I can buy whatever I want or anything like that. It's more like I didn't really have to worry about it. And through every single season, right? Like where God took care. Like even I look at Biola, my bill for Biola this year was $14,000, which is
Wow.
insane to
That
think
is
about,
insane.
right? But then it's like I applied for some scholarships, and I think $3,000 I think was in scholarships, and then my job paid for some of it, and then I just sold a house in real estate.
That's awesome.
And like I'm graduating in May, but I should be graduating with no student loans
Wow.
whatsoever.
Congrats.
Like
that
no,
is awesome.
And no debt. So like that is awesome. You know,
praise God.
And it's like I don't have a ton of money, but I know that God is providing. So yeah. Well, Vlad, man, it's been an amazing conversation. It's been awesome to hear your thoughts, and I always ask people this question: if you were to stand before God, looking at this season of your life, do you feel like you are living right now in light of eternity? What would you say about this season of life?
Yeah, I will say this season is definitely, it feels busier.
Mm-hmm.
Although anybody I run into here in Seattle, I was literally at Costco yesterday, and like, "What's up, Igor?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "How are things?" Busy, right?
Everyone's busy.
Everyone's busy, and I recognize that. But I think going through it, it's having that not balance. I don't know if that's the appropriate word, but recognizing the areas of where I need to be involved and where I need to put my time at that moment. That was advice I received from a pastor, Pastor Jean, from New York. And I've been trying to follow that, where in light of eternity, I want to recognize where I need to be in glorifying God. To give an example, let's say for me, my day with my family is, let's say Monday and Thursday. That's where I just want to devote to the family, and that's all. Well, there's times when on Tuesday, Zion might have questions that need to be dealt with and not wait till Thursday. Or when we're driving in the car and he's asking questions and like, dude, right now we're listening to music, we're focusing on other things. And a good example was, I believe it was last Sunday, we're driving and he was asking about just questions of eternity. He was saying, Papa, why do people go to hell? Why do people go to heaven? So bad people go to hell and good people go to heaven. And, it's easy in this moment to be like, Zion, we'll talk about this at some point.
Yeah.
But recognizing at that moment what needs your attention. And maybe there's something I need to pause. Maybe there's something where it's like, hey, I need to step away from this because right now I need to be here for it. And so that's my approach, in living in light of eternity. Is there have been areas entrusted to me and I want to do them well and not miss the areas that need the attention, especially at that moment.
Yeah.
The priority is definitely my family. That's a huge aspect where those are all individuals that I'm responsible for and that I carry for their growth, for their well-being. And, like James writes, if you're not taking care of your own household, you're worse than a non-believer. And so I'm going to be there and ensure that they first and foremost are taken care of and that they see Christ in me.
Yeah.
And this is something where I see where I do this poorly is when I spend little time with the Lord.
Mm.
When I'm not spending time in prayer, when I'm not spending time
Yeah.
in the Word, and I'm just doing things, that's when I'm the worst version of lad. There's a lot of lad coming out and very little of Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I find that to be able to do that all well, it's prioritizing that time with the Lord. And for me, I wish I could say that I have this like perfect 5 a.m. I wake up and for 1 hour, I don't have that, not yet. And for me, it's every day looks differently. And a lot of times it is in the evening. But before I was like cautious, like, I don't want to just pray in the car, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to just pray in the car, but I am going to pray in the car. You know, I'm going to allow that to be a time where maybe I'm like really ingesting a lot of content or music or whatever, and I'm lost in my thoughts. But to allow that to be a time to just focus and spend time with the Lord,
Yeah.
allow Him to speak into me and to speak to Him, to pour out my heart. And I think all of those moments combined, that helps me see that I'm working towards and getting closer and living in light of eternity,
Yeah.
and being closer into the image of Christ.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know if you heard about this, but if you take your day and you divide it in 4, and you make your day a 6-hour day, then you can accomplish 4 times. Like the insanity,
Wake up at 2 a.m.
like the insanity of some of this like stuff that you see online. It's like, well, if you divide it in 4 6-hour days, then you have 4 days, and I'm like, that's just nonsense, you
Yeah.
know. But what you just mentioned, man, I remember I was about 6 years old. I was in kindergarten. I remember that, and I had that question about God's existence, and I was thinking, okay, if God made everything, who made God? Like, I can't even believe that I was thinking this at 6 years old. The reason I remember
I
this
can
story,
believe it.
yeah.
Knowing Slavic, I can
Well,
believe it.
the reason I remember that story is that I'm walking, holding some kid's hand, and as I'm thinking this, I felt like a really sharp pain in the forehead, and everything just went black. Turns out I walked into a pole.
That's good.
So all these
That's
kids were
great.
like surrounding me, looking down. Um, and I remember waking up and I'm like very confused, right? But I remember at 6 years old, I was dealing with the weight of, okay, who is this God that I'm told about? And like, how old is Zion?
4.
4. And if he's asking this question, like, for him, this is one of the biggest questions he'll wrestle his whole life with,
Yeah.
you know. And it's a good thing that you're pausing and I feel like instead of us focusing on how can we do more, how can we split our day into 4 days and be able to accomplish more, right? This culture, man, it just gets to me, right? How about you just focus on being faithful,
Yeah.
right? And if it's just taking a couple hours spending time with your son to talk to him about God, like that's what you need to do, right? Like, not that you just need to do that, you probably want to do that, right? But I feel like instead of trying to like accomplish, because I deal with the same thing, like a typical day for me is like I teach at King's until 3 p.m. and then I get off and then I drive to Tacoma and then like I'm usually teaching at a smaller college like Slavic Bible College or there's a church event. So I leave like I don't know, maybe 7:30 a.m. in the morning and I show up at 11 p.m. at night. And there's always something to do. But I think my thing is, okay, how can I give my full focus to the person in front of me
Yeah.
or to this task, how I do it matters, right? Because if I do everything just for this life, then yeah, sure. Like, you know, non-Christians, they can just focus on making sure their life right here is very comfortable. But if what we preach is true, then everything that we do here, we will have a whole eternity think about how we treated every single task, how we spoke to every single like person. Like even right now, for those of you who are on podcast, you probably heard a lot of honking and beeps. There's a protest right across the street. It's in that corner over there, and you know they every single Saturday morning they're here protesting, right?
No way.
Yes,
That's
and they're
exciting.
protesting the president and all of that.
Oh, awesome.
And I every single time I'm like, man, like, how do I pray for people that maybe they would disagree with me politically, right? Or, like, I'm not annoyed, where I used to be very annoyed waking up and they used to be right here. And I'm like, why are you protesting at 7 or 8 in the morning?
Sleep in a little.
Right? But I do think how we love people, even the people that we disagree with, how we do everything, right, matters in light of eternity. So, Vlad, man, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I hope those people who are listening online, or maybe they see this on YouTube, I hope that this inspires you to kind of like examine the 4 things in your life: faith, family, friends, and finances, and see, okay, how can you be faithful in those areas. So thank you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate having me on. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure. Bless you, brother.
Blessings, brother.